Hello friends, this is Akshay. Welcome to the new tutorial of devotional study. Today we'll be covering a lot of topics and I'll be covering the complete table topic today. Alright, so let's get started. Hello friends, let's start with cell padding today, right? Our first topic I'll be covering today will be cell padding. So, as you can see in this image, let me first quickly give you a hint what are we learning today. So, I'll give you a hint here. So, as you can see in this picture, today we'll be learning about cell padding. I'll explain you something related to padding as well. What is padding, right? The next topic we'll be covering today, it's gonna be the table, HTML table will colspan. What are the colspan properties we can use, right, with HTML table? Apart from that, we have rowspan as well. It'll be totally similar. I'll teach you about the rowspan property. Next, we'll move on to the caption tag we'll be using in HTML table. And the last one would be how to style HTML table using even odd cells. Okay, so let's start with cell padding here. So okay, I'll show you the previous example. If you haven't I always say this thing, if I'm teaching something here, you should first go through the last class which I have covered, because it will be related with the last one. So here, as you can see, this is the example which we have covered in the last tutorial. Today, as I told you, first I'll go for cell padding. So let's cover the topic for cell padding. Okay, I'll delete few of the okay, I'll create a new HTML document here. First I'll save it in the same directory. You can name it as HTML table, okay, 3.html, as it's the last part of HTML. Today I'll try to cover all the properties of table tag. All right, I mean the necessary one. So as you can see, I've saved this file here, right? So let me write the code. What I'll do, I'll copy this previous code, because I don't want to type each and everything all together. So I'll just copy this code and we'll experiment, we'll perform some experiments on this particular code only, right? So please look into this image we have here. So the cell padding, what is cell padding? Why are we using cell padding within HTML table? So it's basically used each and every cell, I mean the values, right? The table has table header, table columns, and they have cells. So each and every cell, if you can specify padding for table header and the data, right? The data we have for, let me show you the data so that you can understand in a better way. Okay, let me launch this table. Okay, we didn't have any code saved yet. Okay, table 2, yeah. So as you can see here, this is table header and these are data. Okay, all the data we have here. So we will name this particular field as table header, and these if we'll combine everything, right, it becomes cells. So we have 9 cells to, total. Okay, so okay, let me explain you. Let's go back to the same image here. Let me explain you this particular padding, why we are using padding is basically to give spacing, right? Padding is it's basically a CSS property. Padding basically gives gives spaces, right, around the content. Whatever the value you'll be putting in the cell, around that value we'll be having a similar I mean a same space from the top, from right, from left, and from bottom. All right, so the padding basically clears the area around the element. With CSS, you can have full control over the padding, and there are like different properties for setting the padding for each cell, as I've told you, from top, right, left, and bottom. Okay, So as even you can see in this image as well. So the next thing we have is we can okay, first make sure you understand the thing padding. Okay, next thing, how can we apply padding? We can use two ways in order to apply padding, right? By using the cell padding attribute of a table, or by padding property in CSS. Unfortunately, the cell padding attribute of an HTML table tag is no longer in use. We don't use, and I don't recommend you to use the cell padding property. I'm just telling you because there was a feature before. Now it's not in use. So the last way we have is by using the second point, by padding property in CSS. Okay, we can use the CSS property. So basically we have CSS property only to apply padding within a cell or header. Okay, all right, so let me show you in this example here. So as we have this table tag, we have the table's content here, right? And I'll delete this one for you. Okay, style tag, as I've told you, in order to apply CSS styling, we use style tag. Okay, so we'll be discussing more about a CSS in a separate tutorial. Okay, so today let's see here style tag. First of all, let me explain you, let me write down the code for you so that you can understand what is cell padding. First of all, I'll run this code, I'll save it. Okay, and I'll run this code this time, HTML table 3. Okay, let's see, are we getting something? Yep. So we don't have border around this table, we don't have anything, we just have values for this particular example, right? So I'll add, first of all, I'll add border. Okay, so in order to use border, we will use the last example we have used before. So this is the element on which we are putting our CSS. So table, next thing would be th, and the last one would be td. Okay, we'll open the CSS property. We are applying CSS right now on table, header, and td. So in order to apply border, we can use border property as we have used before. 1 pixel, solid black. I love this property. All right, the second thing is let me first run this code and let me show you what is the output we are getting. So we're getting this table. Suppose if you want to combine these, we have two borders, one for cell and one for the complete table. So if I want to combine the complete the complete border, I will use a different property, that is border collapse. Okay, border collapse, and it should be collapse. Okay, if I'll use this property, so you can see here we have 1 pixel border. It is solid, it is black, but we are not getting extra border for cell. It has got combined, right? So we have combined this using this property. This property basically collapsed or merged all the cells. Okay, now the next point we have is we need to create padding. Okay, in order to create padding, we need to apply CSS. All right, so CSS, what will be the CSS code? So in order to apply CSS, we will use a different code. So it will be on td and th. So you must be thinking, why I'm writing an extra code here? So because for this we have table, right? We applied border on table, so we cannot apply padding on table, right? Because the values is all the values are under the table tag. So we need to apply padding within th, the header and the column. So property will be padding, and the value I'll give is 5 pixel. Let's see what is happening. So I have saved this, I have applied padding. So let me show you the example. So right now, do you see there is an uneven gap. Here we have, I mean, lot of gaps on the right hand side, yeah, and here we have right hand side we have gap here, but we don't have left gap, and it is applying on the header as well. So let's reload this code after putting the padding. See, everything is now looking fine, right? I mean, we have a similar padding around, right, around the value, around the content. Okay, let me go back to the code. Let me change the pixel value now. Okay, I'll change it to 10 px. Px means pixel and pd means point. So yeah, as you can see, we have 10 pixels of padding around the content. Yeah, and one more thing, it always I mean, you must be thinking why there is less gap here, because we have letter width as well. Every letter has their own width, right? So in order to avoid that, if you want to use, you can use any of the table tags I have uh, given you in the first class, right? So you can go through that, because we have used capital letters, small letters. So because of that, every uh, letter has their own width. That is the reason. Still, it's not looking that much fine, but yeah, comparatively with the previous code without applying the padding, it was looking pretty fine. Okay, so let's move on to our next thing. That should be colspan property. Okay, so for colspan, right, colspan is basically if you want to combine or if you want to make a cell span more than one column. Span basically is related to merging. If you want to apply merge, right, you can use colspan property. I mean, only the columns. It applies only on the columns. So if you can see in this picture, we have colspan property here, right, and we can use it when we are using this kind of as you can see on the screen, this kind of particular example. So let's go to the practical screen. Okay, so I have this code only. I'll make some changes here itself, so I'm not writing the complete code altogether. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We will delete this value. Let me first change the values of the table so that you can understand it better way. So I'll delete the number, or let's delete this column. Okay, what are we gonna do is I'll delete this particular column here. Okay, so I'll apply here number. I'll name it as number. I'll delete this particular column. So we will be having 2 columns in first row and 3 columns in the rest of the 2 rows. Okay, so here now the value has changed. Only we have numbers, so I'll type here 3 4 5 6 7 here as well, 9 6, any random number you can type in. Okay, let's run the example. Now we have if suppose I have my name and I'm using 2 numbers, right? So there must be 2 columns for one specific header, right? So these are 2 columns for one value. So because I'm using 2 numbers, even Amit is using 2 numbers, so I want one column for 2 numbers. So in order to do that particular thing, we need to combine using, I mean, you can see this has a column, this column and this column, right? This column and this column needs to be combined so that the header gets it has a single value. This this row should become little more interactive. So what I'll do here, I'll add the colspan property and I'll make it as 2. Okay, so let's reload it. So as you can see, it combined, or it spanned what it did is it just combined the number with both of the You can see here it has used both of the columns and it got combined.